Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Every single day we all face these choices. Some are tiny, some are huge, that make us ask, what's the right thing to do here? Is it all about getting the best possible result? Or are there some lines you just never, ever cross? So today, we're going to jump right into this and try to unpack the very nature of right and wrong.
Okay, so let's start with you. Picture this. It's a classic for a reason. There's a runaway tram, it's about to hit 5 people. But you're standing by a lever. If you pull it, the tram switches tracks. You save the 5 people, but one person on that other track will die. So what do? Take a second. What's your gut reaction? Do you pull the lever or do you do nothing? Whatever you just decided, pull or don't pull. That one choice, that gut feeling, well, you've just plugged yourself directly into a massive, centuries-old debate. Your answer isn't just a simple yes or no. It's actually a window into how you see the entire world of right and wrong.
And that brings us right to our first section. This famous thought experiment, the trolley problem, it's not just some grim little story. Nope. It's the absolute perfect way to frame the fundamental fight at the very heart of ethics.
So this breaks it down perfectly. You've got 2 main camps. On one side, you have the people who say, yep, pull the lever. Their logic? It's simple math. Saving 5 lives is better than saving 1. But on the other side, you've got the people who wouldn't touch that lever. For them, the act of choosing to kill someone, even to save others, is a moral line you just do not cross. The outcome doesn't matter as much as the action itself.
So let's see how this one decision blows up into the 2 major schools of thought in moral philosophy. This really is the core conflict. Should we judge our actions based on the rules we follow or on the results they create?
First up is utilitarianism. This is the results camp. For a utilitarian, the most moral action is the one that creates the greatest good for the greatest number of people. It is all about the consequences, the final score. So, in the trolley problem, you pull the lever. 5 lives saved beats 1 life lost. It's simple, it's practical, and it's totally focused on the outcome.
But then, you've got deontology. And this is the rules camp. Deontologists argue that some actions are just plain right or wrong, and the outcome doesn't change that. A key rule, from the philosopher Immanuel Kant, is that you can never use a person as a mere means to an end. By pulling that lever, you are literally using that one person to save the other 5. You're breaking a fundamental moral rule.
And this just lays it all out, side by side. Utilitarianism is all about looking forward. What's going to happen? What's the best future we can create? Deontology is about looking at the action right now. Does it follow the moral law? One is flexible and driven by outcomes. The other is rigid and bound by duty.
Oh, the philosopher Ronald Dworkin put the deontological view so perfectly with this: rights are trumps. The idea is that certain rights, like your right to not be killed, are like a trump card in a game. They just beat everything else. You can't trade them away, even if you think you're going to get a better outcome. The right itself is what's most important.
Okay, but that raises a huge question, right? If rights are so powerful that they're trumps, where in the world did they come from? Did we just make them up? Let's take a look at the main theories.
So there are 4 big ideas here. 1, maybe rights are given to us by God. 2, or, and this is kind of ironic, maybe they're just a utilitarian invention, a tool we created because respecting them leads to the best outcomes for society. 3, maybe they're just part of our human nature as rational beings. Or 4, maybe they come from a social contract, this kind of unspoken agreement we all make to follow the rules in exchange for protection.
Okay, now that we've thought a bit about where rights come from, let's get practical and quickly break down the different types of rights you'll hear about. Think of this as a quick field guide to the language of morality.
First, let's look at the difference between negative and positive rights. A negative right is basically a freedom from something. It just requires other people to leave you alone. Think of the right to be free from torture. A positive right, on the other hand, is an entitlement to something. This requires others, usually the government, to provide you with something like a right to an education.
And then you've got this constant tug of war between individual rights and community rights. Some places, like the US, really prioritize the rights of the individual above pretty much everything else. But other systems, like you might see in Scandinavia, argue that sometimes the well-being and rights of the whole community can outweigh an individual's freedom. That's the logic that justifies things like higher taxes for big social safety nets.
So this brings us to our final, and honestly our most challenging section. We've defined all these terms, utilitarianism, deontology, different kinds of rights, but what happens in the real world when these perfectly good ideas slam right into each other?
The classic starting point for this whole problem comes from the philosopher John Stuart Mill. His harm principle sounds pretty simple. Your freedom ends where it starts to harm someone else. The government can only step in to stop you from hurting other people. Makes sense, right?
Well, yeah, it gets complicated. And it gets complicated fast. What exactly counts as harm? Let's say you smoke and get sick in a country with public health care. Does your personal choice harm everyone else by draining those shared resources? This is the kind of logic used for things like mandatory seatbelt laws. That line is a whole lot fuzzier than it first appears.
So, when two valid rights are in conflict, how do we decide which one wins? There are really two main ways to go about it. We could try to create a hierarchy, argue that the right to life is always more important than, say, the right to privacy. Or we could just fall back on good old utility and ask which choice here is going to lead to the best overall consequences for everybody.
And this is the perfect example of this dilemma in action. The debate over hate speech is a textbook rights clash. On one side, you have the fundamental right to free speech. On the other, you have a person's right to live free from offense and to feel safe in their own community. Both are important rights, so which one gets to be the trump card?
And that leaves us with one final, really challenging question. If, when our most important rights clash, our final solution is to just pick the option with the best outcome, haven't we just become utilitarians again? If utility is the final tiebreaker, then what's the point of having these powerful rights in the first place? It's a tough question, one that takes us right back to the beginning, and one that moral philosophy is still trying to figure out.